Very good evening to you traders. Mark here from Daytrading Room. Time is 10 to 8 London time on a Tuesday evening. A very quick video before the final hour of Tuesday. I just wanted to follow up really from the video I put out on YouTube and on the blog yesterday. If you haven't seen that, go and have a look. I talked about this momentum type trade where you're looking for the drive lower. The drawing pen out very quickly. The drive lower, the sort of flag or the counter trend move, the failure on the rotation back down, and you're looking for that failure to use that as a level to work your stop off, and you're going to trade in the direction of momentum. And actually yesterday, perfect timing for it really. After that video, if you guys watched it, you'd have done well out of it, because it was just the setup worked perfectly. Now let's run through the setup bit by bit. So what we had yesterday, we had the Dow up very strongly, and it was just consolidating near the highs. It was just flagging and it was looking quite dull. And all of a sudden we had some news coming across the wires. We were talking about the FT were running a piece on tapering. Bernanke is going to start tapering, blah blah blah, whatever it may be. Doesn't really matter, doesn't really concern us. All that matters is that we started to get a little bit of pressure to the downside. Now I'm not really interested in this move. This move to me, up at that point, could easily form a wick on a 15-minute, and it could be taking out new highs. However, I'm starting to get interested when we start breaking down to this level. If I zoom in a little bit so we can see that a little bit more clearly, when we start to break and hold and break and hold, and we're not really getting any push back, then I get a little bit more interested. And especially as on the Dow Cash 15,200, I like my key psychological levels, was around about here on the YM. Okay, so when we broke through that and started holding down here, I'm looking for a short and actually activating that momentum type trade that I discussed in the earlier video. So what is that trade? Well, the trade basically sets up like this. You've got the momentum that drives lower, and that's a good 80-point move, 60 to 80-point move, which is enough to spook a few people. We're not talking a 20-tick little blast, we're talking a prolonged but reasonably urgent over a 25 to 30-minute period 80-point move. So at that point, and we're under some support. We've broken some key levels from today. We've broken the 15,200 Dow Cash level. This is the YM, remember, broken the 15,200 Dow Cash level, and we're consolidating at lows. So the setup now comes into play. I don't know if it's going to work. I've got no idea if it's going to work, but what I like is that the risk is quantified. It's trading with momentum. It's not chasing, it's just looking at the price action and ultimately trading it. So what was the setup? Well, we started to flag down here, form this little flag at the bottom, so it's that push lower and then there's a flag formation. Then in this candle here we started to push up and break above the flag. That's phase 2, if you like, of the setup. Phase 1 is the momentum, phase 2 is the break above the consolidation. Okay, the high there was 21 if I remember correctly. Yeah, 15,121. There's your marker now. Once you've got that, you don't know how high it's going to go, but when you see that and then you see it starting to come back in, the trade setup then is activated. I took the short trade. My stop is going to be above 21. We did actually try to get above it again, but we didn't break through 15,121. Fine, the setup still works. We then rolled over, and ultimately we got a really good roll to the downside. I did some scaling quite aggressively to take off some of the risk as we roll back into this low here, just because of the nature of the move and the panic I felt the panic had sort of run out of puff a little bit, but I'm still going to run with the premise of the trade. Maybe a little bit ambitious. I was looking potentially for a gap fill, which was a long way lower, or I was going to come out on minus 1,000 ticks, or I was going to come out if we started to get some tick readings above 200, plus 200, something like that. And actually, guys, sometimes trades just work out really nicely, and this just happened to be one of them. My exit criteria was, as I say, the gap fill, which is a long way away, or I was going to look for prolonged ticks, positive ticks above 100 close, and maybe be prepared to give back a little bit just to see those, or a minus 1,000 ticks. Minus 1,000 ticks, that's going to be definitely a big scale point for me. So it just happened to be this time the minus 1,000 tick reading was here, minus 1,004, and it just happened to be the low of the day. That sometimes that happens, and it's you get a little bit of luck on your side, but ultimately why we're driving all the way down here, I think we got a minus 922, and at that point at minus 934, there you go. At that point, I think we got a minus 922 as well. minus 930, minus 944, so nearly 1,000 ticks here, but not quite. And I'm there, I'm sitting on the buy button, I'm waiting to come out, and I haven't got 1,000 ticks, I haven't got my signal to exit. So I'm sitting with it, I'm thinking, okay, it's potential here that we're going to get minus 900, we're going to pop back up, I'm going to give some back, but the rules are the rules. I'm sticking with the trade, the premise is working. While the trade is working for me, there's no reason to close it. And it just happened that the minus 1,000 ticks was, not far off the low tick of the day. So, it was a great little exit. And the final trailer that I was holding for the gap, as we started crossing up above, and we started doing some work around here, then I was all out. So it was a nice trade. It worked out very, very nicely. It was that setup. It was the momentum, the sort of flag, if you like, or the counter trend move that attempts to pop, that fails. There's your risk. You're looking for a further move in the direction of the trade, in the direction of momentum. And that's exactly what happened, and it worked out very, very nicely. So a good trade overall. Now the important thing about this is it was quite good in terms of we had a catalyst there. There was a news story coming out that potentially was worrying people. Now ultimately, obviously, we did push back up to the view up later in the day, but at that point in time it was concerning people, and there was some money flowing out of equities. So having a catalyst there, having that, it was an ambitious target. Admittedly, the gap was quite a way away, but it's a natural sort of magnet for the trade. And if it had really got going at that point, maybe if it failed again and rolled over and we had a last sort of 30-minute drive, it wouldn't have been out of the question. So just wanted to mention that, just wanted to point that out in a real world example, and it did set up quite nicely, and it's a good example there to look at and compare to what I talked about in that video. If you can't see it, go to daytradingroom.com, and I think I've titled it Momentum Trading, Trade Momentum Setup, but if you search for that, you can see the video there. So anyway, good trading, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. Manage the risk, and I shall probably be back with another video in the next week or so. Take care.